The galaxy laughed, until humanity unveiled the supernova. Fleet Admiral John Matthews stood straight as a board as he faced the alien ambassador. He had practiced this meeting many times, knowing what would likely happen. The large meeting room on Neutral Station 6 had high ceilings to accommodate the taller alien species. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that reminded Matthews of Earth's oceans. Ambassador Chrysalix towered over the human delegation. The Zexorian's 6 iridescent limbs moved in complex patterns while speaking. Its compound eyes reflected the room's light in a rainbow of colors. The translator device on Matthew's collar converted the alien's clicks and whistles into English. "Your species is simply too primitive," Ambassador Chrysalix said. The translator couldn't hide the mocking tone. "The Galactic Coalition requires members to meet certain technological standards. Your petition has been rejected." Matthews felt his second in command, Commander Lisa Wright, tense beside him. This was the third rejection in 10 years. The 5 human representatives had traveled for 3 months in what the aliens considered an embarrassingly slow ship to reach this station, just to be humiliated again. "We understand your position," Matthews replied with a carefully blank face. "Earth will continue its independent development." The Zexorian's upper limbs waved in what the humans had learned was a gesture of dismissal. "Perhaps in another century, you might be ready to apply again. Your propulsion systems are laughable. Your weapons would not even damage our civilian vessels. Your artificial intelligence is barely worth the name." Matthews simply nodded. Behind him, the other human representatives maintained equally neutral expressions. They had been chosen partly for their ability to hide their feelings. What the Zexorian and the 17 other coalition species didn't know was that humanity had been putting on a show. For 50 years since first contact, Earth's unified government had presented a carefully crafted image: outdated ships, basic weapons, and seemingly simple computers. All fake. "We thank you for your consideration," Matthews said formally. "We will return to Earth now." The Zexorian made the dismissive gesture again. "Safe travels in your quaint vessel." The human delegation walked out of the meeting room with measured steps. None of them spoke until they were aboard their shuttle, a deliberately clunky-looking craft that hid its true capabilities behind panels of fake, outdated technology. As the shuttle undocked from the station, Commander Wright finally spoke. "That's the third rejection, sir. Will we continue the charade?" Matthews looked at his team. They all knew the truth. Earth had united quickly after first contact when they realized how dangerous the galaxy could be. The old nations had formed a single. Government and resources had been poured into secret development programs. "Project Supernova is ready," Wright added. "The President sent confirmation while we were in the meeting. Full deployment has been authorized." Matthews nodded. "They've given us no choice. The coalition species see us as primitive, ignorant children. They hide their own border disputes and power struggles from us, thinking we wouldn't understand complex galactic politics." Lieutenant Ben Hayes, the youngest of the delegation, looked out the viewport at the massive alien station, growing smaller behind them. "The Zexorians have been scanning our ship again. Standard energy sweeps." "Let them," Matthews said. "All they'll see is exactly what we want them to see." The shuttle's fake propulsion system made convincing noises as the real system, hidden behind layers of quantum shielding, silently pushed them away at twice the speed the aliens thought possible for humans. "How long until we reach the rendezvous point?" Matthews asked. 3 days at this speed," the pilot, Captain Susan Gray, answered. "We could make it in hours if we didn't have to maintain the deception." Matthews shook his head. "We maintain the deception until ordered otherwise." The listening post on Europa detected unusual activity near the Thoraxian border. "The coalition representatives are nervous about something they're not telling us." Commander Wright pulled up data on her. "Tell us here. Intelligence suggests the Thoraxians may have left the coalition. They were always the most aggressive species." Matthews wasn't surprised. The coalition presented itself as a peaceful organization, but humans had observed enough to know better. Species fought for power and resources, just like humans had throughout their history. The difference was that humanity had learned from its mistakes. "If the Thoraxians have broken away," he said quietly, "they'll be looking for easy targets to prove their strength. And non-coalition worlds would be first on their list." Wright finished his thought. "Worlds like Earth." Exactly. The shuttle continued its journey, maintaining the illusion of slow travel. The 5 humans took turns resting in the small bunks. When alone, Matthews reviewed the classified files on his secure tablet. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility unknown even to most of Earth's government officials, the final preparations for the supernova fleet were underway. Similar facilities existed beneath the surface of Mars, inside hollowed-out asteroids, and in the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. For 50 years, humanity had built in secret while showing the galaxy a face of technological backwardness. The advanced ships, weapons, and defensive systems had never been tested at full capacity. Earth couldn't risk the energy signatures being detected. On the 3rd day of their return journey, an urgent message arrived from Earth. The quantum communicator, disguised as a standard radio system, decoded it instantly. "Admiral Matthews, your presence is requested for an emergency Security Council meeting upon arrival. Long-range sensors have detected a fleet of vessels entering the outer solar system. They are not responding to hails. Coalition representatives claim no knowledge but advise immediate surrender to prevent regrettable loss of life. Authentication code, Phoenix Rising." Matthews read the message twice before sharing it with the others. "It's happening," Wright said. "The Thoraxians." "Most likely," Matthews agreed. "The Coalition knows and is choosing not to intervene. They think we'll be conquered quickly," Hayes said bitterly. "Another primitive species eliminated or enslaved." Matthews' face showed emotion for the first time in days, a slight smile. "The galaxy has been laughing at humanity since first contact. They saw what we wanted them to see. And now they're about to learn their mistake." Captain Gray looked up from the pilot's console. "Orders, sir?" Matthews took a deep breath. 50 years of planning and preparation had led to this moment. "Disengage the facade. Maximum speed to Earth. It's time to wake up the real fleet." The galaxy laughed until humanity unveiled the supernova. Fleet deep beneath the lunar surface, Chief Engineer Olivia Rodriguez watched her team work. The massive underground hangar stretched for miles in every direction. Bright lights shone. On the sleek black surface of the UES Sunburst, the flagship of humanity's true fleet. Rodriguez checked her tablet one more time. All systems were green. The quantum core pulsed with blue energy, contained within multiple safety fields. The ship's true engines had never been fired at full capacity. Their tests had all been conducted in carefully shielded environments to prevent detection. 10 years of my life went into the ship, her assistant Alan Parker said quietly. He stood beside her on the observation platform. "And they still have no idea what we've built." Rodriguez nodded. "Not just this ship. 50 vessels hidden across the solar system. While the Coalition saw our fake fusion drives and chemical rockets, we perfected quantum slipstream technology. The sunburst was 700 meters long with smooth lines that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its hull was made of materials that didn't exist in any Coalition database. The ship had no visible weapons. They were hidden beneath retractable panels. An alert sounded on Rodriguez's tablet. Admiral Matthews's shuttle had returned to Earth space, now traveling at its true speed. The facade was over. "Begin final preparations," she ordered the launch team. "We may be deploying sooner than planned." In Mars orbit, Colonel Frank Miller floated in zero gravity as he supervised the loading of specialized weapons. The orbital platform was disguised as a research station. Coalition observers had visited it many times and seen exactly what humans wanted them to see: outdated technology and simple experiments. Behind hidden walls, the supernova-class weapons waited. They were unlike anything the Coalition species had developed. They didn't fire energy beams or explosive projectiles. They manipulated gravity itself, creating controlled distortions in space-time. "The last shipment is aboard," reported his weapons officer. Kate Simmons. She pushed herself across the loading bay with practiced ease. All 20 ships in the Mars fleet are armed and ready. Miller nodded. The Coalition thinks our best weapon is a basic nuclear device. They have no concept of what we've actually built. His communicator beeped with a priority message. The Thoraxian fleet had been confirmed. 27 warships approaching from the outer solar system. They had sent a single demand: surrender Earth immediately or face complete destruction. It's finally happening, Simmons said. After all, these years of hiding what we can do. Miller smiled grimly. Let's hope the reality lives up to the simulations. On Earth, President Maria Howard addressed an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. The room was tense as representatives from every nation watched the holographic display showing the approaching alien fleet. The Coalition ambassadors claim they cannot intervene, Howard explained. They say the Thoraxians have formally withdrawn from the Coalition and are acting independently. They have advised us to surrender to prevent loss of life. General Paul Ward, head of Earth's Defense Forces, stood up. Madam President, the Supernova fleet is ready for deployment. All 50 ships can launch within 2 hours. The Russian representative spoke next. We have maintained this deception for 50 years. We have united as a planet despite our differences. Is it time to show our true capabilities? Howard looked around the room. 50 years ago, alien contact had changed. Everything. Old enemies had become allies against a possible greater threat. Resources had been pooled. The best scientists and engineers from every nation had worked together in secret. The Thoraxians have given us 24 hours to surrender, she said. They believe we have no choice. Their message made it clear they see Earth as an easy first conquest now that they've left the Coalition. The Chinese representative nodded. They chose us because they think we are weak, a primitive species with primitive defenses. Then it is time they learned the truth, Howard decided. She pressed a button on the table in front of her. This is President Howard. Authorization code Phoenix Ascendant. Deploy the Supernova fleet. Across the solar system, hidden doors began to open. On the far side of the moon, massive hangar doors slid apart, revealing darkness within. Similar doors opened on Mars, on asteroids, on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and in Earth orbit where stealth platforms suddenly became visible. Matthews had returned to Earth just in time. He stood in the Global Command Center beneath the Pacific Ocean as reports came in from across the solar system. Lunar Fleet. Reports ready for deployment, announced Commander Wright, now at her station. Mars Fleet reports ready. Jupiter Fleet reports ready. Saturn Fleet reports ready. Earth Orbital Fleet reports ready. Matthews took his position at the command chair. Screens lit up around him, showing the 50 vessels of humanity's true fleet, preparing to launch. What is our response to the Thoraxian ultimatum? Wright asked. Matthews thought for a moment. Send them these words only. Approach at your own risk. The message was transmitted. The Thoraxian commander replied almost immediately. The alien's face appeared on the main screen, reptilian with 4 eyes and scaled skin. Your primitive species dares to threaten us? The Thoraxian said. Your defenses are nothing compared to our fleet. We have studied your technology. You have simple chemical weapons and basic fusion devices. Surrender now or be destroyed. Matthews didn't respond. Instead, he gave the order that humanity had been preparing for 50 years. All ships of the Supernova fleet launch now. Across the solar system, 50 black ships rose from their hiding places. The sunburst led the lunar division, its quantum engines glowing with blue fire. Unlike the clunky vessels the aliens had seen before, these ships moved with impossible grace and speed. On the observation post orbiting Europa, Captain Daniel Russell watched the readouts with satisfaction. The Thoraxians are detecting our ships now. Their communication channels are filling with confused chatter. In the command center, Matthews watched as the Thoraxian commander's expression changed from confidence to confusion. What is this? The alien demanded. These vessels do not match our intelligence reports. What trickery is this? No trickery, Matthews replied calmly. You saw what we wanted you to see. This is who we really are. The Sunburst took position at the head of the fleet. The other ships formed a perfect formation behind it. Matching their movements exactly, they accelerated toward the approaching Thoraxian fleet. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for 50 years. The laughter was about to stop. The galaxy laughed until humanity unveiled the supernova fleet. The supernova fleet moved through space with perfect coordination. Black ships against the darkness, they would have been nearly invisible except for the blue energy lines that pulsed along their hulls. Admiral Matthews sat in the command chair aboard the Sunburst, watching as they approached the Thoraxian fleet. "They're scanning us," Commander Wright reported from her station. "Their energy signatures are increasing. They're preparing weapons." Matthews nodded. "All ships, activate quantum shields." Across the 50 vessels of the human fleet, invisible, fields of energy formed. These shields didn't work like the barrier fields used by coalition species. They operated on a different principle altogether, manipulating the quantum state of incoming energy. "The Thoraxians are hailing us again," Wright said. The main screen activated, showing the Thoraxian commander. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation that human intelligence had identified years ago. "What trickery is this?" the alien demanded. "Your species possesses no such vessels. Our intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted them to be," Matthews interrupted. "Your reports were based on what we showed the galaxy. This is what we kept hidden." The Thoraxian's scaled face tightened. "It makes no difference. Your 50 ships cannot stand against our 27. Our weapons will tear through whatever shields you possess." The communication ended abruptly. On the tactical display, Matthews watched as the Thoraxian fleet spread into attack formation. They were skilled, he had to admit. Their movements showed years of military experience. "They're firing," Wright announced calmly. Brilliant purple beams of energy shot from the lead Thoraxian vessels. These weapons had decimated other species before. According to coalition records that humans had secretly accessed, these energy weapons could melt through meters of reinforced hull plating. The beams struck the quantum shields of the human vessels and disappeared. In the Sunburst's engine room, Chief Engineer Rodriguez watched the readings with satisfaction. "Shields functioning perfectly," she reported over the communication system. "The energy is being absorbed and redirected to our power systems. We're actually gaining power from their attacks." On the bridge, Matthews allowed himself a small smile. "All ships hold position. Continue absorbing their fire." The Thoraxians fired again and again. Each time, the human shields simply absorbed the energy. After the 6th volley, the alien attacks stopped. "They're confused," said Lieutenant Hayes, now serving as intelligence officer on the Sunburst. "Their communication channels are filled with urgent messages. They don't understand why their weapons aren't working." Matthews nodded. "Now it's our turn. Target their propulsion systems. Minimal force. Remember, this is a demonstration, not a massacre." Across the human fleet, hidden panels slid open, but no obvious weapons emerged. Instead, a subtle distortion appeared in space around each ship, a ripple in reality itself. "Gravity weapons activated," reported Colonel Miller from his position as weapons chief. "Targeting solutions locked." "Fire," Matthews ordered. There was no beam of light, no projectile to see. The supernova weapons manipulated gravity itself, creating precise distortions in space-time. These distortions traveled faster than light, impossible to dodge. On the tactical display, Matthews watched as 25 Thoraxian ships suddenly went dark. Their engines stopped. They began drifting in space. "Direct hits on all targeted vessels," Miller confirmed. "Their propulsion systems have been crushed by localized gravity fields. They're dead in space." Only 2 Thoraxian ships remained operational, the command vessel and its escort. They had been deliberately left untouched. "Open a channel to their commander," Matthews ordered. The alien's face appeared again on screen. The Thoraxian's expression was now one of undisguised shock. "What is this? Technology?" he demanded, his voice losing its earlier arrogance. "This is not possible. No species in the coalition has weapons that can disable ships without damage." "We aren't in your coalition. Matthews replied simply. We developed our own path. The Thoraxian commander looked away, apparently consulting with others off-screen. When he turned back, his voice was lower. What are your terms? Your remaining ships will escort your disabled vessels to the nearest Coalition monitoring station, Matthews said. You will inform the Coalition that Earth is not to be threatened again. And if we refuse? Matthews leaned forward in his chair. The same gravity technology that crushed your engines can be focused on life support systems, or command centers, or individual officers. We chose to disable your ships because we don't want unnecessary deaths. Don't mistake mercy for weakness. The Thoraxian was silent for a long moment. We will comply. As the communication ended, cheers erupted across the Sunburst's bridge. Matthews held up his hand for quiet. This is only the beginning, he reminded them. The galaxy now knows we've been hiding our true capabilities. The Coalition won't ignore this. On Earth, President Howard watched the encounter through a direct feed to the United Nations chamber. Representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence as they witnessed humanity's first true space battle. The Thoraxians have agreed to withdraw, Howard announced. There were no casualties on either side. The Brazilian representative spoke first. What happens now, Madam President? The deception we maintained for 50 years is over. Howard stood tall at the podium. Now we negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness. The Coalition rejected us 3 times because they thought we were primitive. They won't make that mistake again. In the following hours, messages flooded in from across the galaxy. Coalition ambassadors requested emergency meetings. Species that had previously ignored humanity now sought direct communication. Aboard the Sunburst, Matthews received a priority message from President Howard. Return to Earth immediately. The Galactic Coalition has requested a special audience. This time they're coming to us. As the Supernova fleet escorted the disabled Thoraxian vessels to the nearest Coalition monitoring station, news of the encounter spread rapidly through galactic communication channels. The species that had laughed at humanity for 50 years weren't laughing anymore. Set course for Earth, Matthews ordered. Maintain quantum shields. Let the galaxy see what we're truly capable of. As the Sunburst turned, its black hull seemed to absorb the light of distant stars. Humanity had hidden in the shadows for 50 years. Now it was stepping into the light on its own terms. The galaxy laughed, until humanity unveiled the Supernova fleet. 1 week after the encounter with the Thoraxian fleet, Earth prepared to receive the Galactic Coalition delegation. A special landing area had been constructed in Geneva, Switzerland. It was large enough to accommodate the various alien ships and had special atmospheric controls for species with different breathing requirements. Ambassador Sam Baker stood beside President Howard as they waited for the first ships to arrive. Baker had been appointed Earth's new representative to the Coalition just 3 days ago. He was a calm, thoughtful man who had spent years studying alien cultures in secret. Nervous? Howard asked him quietly. Baker smiled slightly. A bit. I've spent my career preparing for this moment, but it's still overwhelming. Remember, Howard said, we negotiate as equals now, not as supplicants. The sky brightened as the first Coalition vessel descended through the clouds. It was an elegant craft with flowing lines and glowing symbols along its hull. 5 more ships followed, each representing a different Coalition species. Ambassador Krazalax was the first to emerge from his ship. The Zexorian moved with less confidence than during their previous meetings. His 6 limbs made careful, measured movements as he approached the human delegation. President Howard, the translator converted his clicks and whistles. On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I thank you for receiving us. Howard nodded slightly. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We're pleased to host this historic meeting. Other ambassadors joined them. Representatives from the Meldarians with their crystalline bodies, the fog-like Vaporians contained in special suits, the massive gravitons who moved slowly due to their dense body structure, the insectoid Hyversis, and the plant-based Floraxians. They were escorted to the newly built diplomatic center. The meeting room had been designed with all species in mind, different chair types, atmospheric bubbles for those who needed them, and adjusted gravity fields in specific areas. Howard sat at the head of the table with Baker beside her. Admiral Matthews and Commander Wright represented Earth's military. Chief Engineer Rodriguez was there to answer technical questions if needed. Ambassador Krausalks spoke first. You deliberately misled the coalition about your technological capabilities. His tone held accusation, but there was also a new note of respect that hadn't been there before. We presented what we chose to present, Howard replied calmly. Your coalition chose to judge us based on appearances rather than potential. The Meldarian ambassador's crystalline form shimmered as she spoke. The deception was impressive in its scope and duration. 50 of your years is a significant investment in such a strategy. Baker leaned forward. Earth has a long history of conflict among our own people. When we encountered alien life, we united, but we remained cautious. History taught us that technological differences often lead to conquest. So you hid your true capabilities, the graviton rumbled. Wise, perhaps, but it raises questions about trust moving forward. Howard smiled diplomatically. Trust works, both ways, Ambassador. The coalition repeatedly denied our membership applications while sharing limited information about galactic affairs. We now know the Thoraxians had been threatening to leave the coalition for years, yet this potential threat to non-member worlds was never mentioned to us. There was an uncomfortable silence around the table. What do you seek now? Asked the Vaporian, its voice coming through both translator and containment suit. Now that your true power is revealed? The same thing we sought before, Baker answered. Peaceful membership in the Galactic Coalition, fair trade, cultural exchange. But now we negotiate as equals, not as a primitive species seeking protection. The coalition representatives exchanged glances. The Floraxians' leaf-like appendages rustled. Your weapons technology, it said. The gravity manipulation. It is concerning. The coalition has strict regulations on weapons development. Matthews spoke for the first time. Our technology was developed for defense, not conquest. We demonstrated restraint in our encounter with the Thoraxians. We disabled their ships without casualties. Nevertheless, Krausalks said, the Coalition Security Committee requests immediate inspection of your military installations. Howard's expression didn't change, but her voice became firmer. That request is denied. Our defensive capabilities are not open for review. Then membership may be difficult, the Meldarian stated. Perhaps, Baker replied smoothly. But Earth now has other options. Since our demonstration against the Thoraxian fleet, we've received communication from 12 independent worlds seeking trade agreements. 5 former coalition species have reached out about possible alliances. This caused a visible reaction among the ambassadors. The Hyversius ambassador's antennae twitched rapidly. You would form a rival coalition? It asked. Baker shook his head. We prefer to join the existing Galactic Coalition, but we will do so as full members with all rights and privileges. Our defensive capabilities remain our own. After hours of discussion, a preliminary agreement was reached. Earth would be granted provisional membership in the coalition, with special provisions acknowledging its right to maintain independent defense systems. A formal ceremony would be held in 3 months. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Krausalks approached Baker privately. Your species has surprised us, the Zexorian admitted. Many believed humans would remain a minor presence in galactic affairs for centuries. A common mistake, Baker replied, judging a species by its apparent technology rather than its potential. Yes, Krausalks's mandibles clicked softly. A mistake the coalition will not make again. After the ambassadors departed, Baker met with Admiral Matthews on the observation deck of the Geneva Diplomatic Center. They're still underestimating us, Matthews said quietly. Baker nodded. They think they've seen our full capabilities now, and we're content to let them believe that, Matthews replied. The Supernova fleet represents only the technology we were willing to reveal. The truth, known only to Earth's highest leadership, was that the quantum consciousness integration system The dimensional phase technology, the biological enhancements, all remained hidden. Humanity had learned caution from its own bloody history. Power revealed was power that could be countered or stolen. In 3 months we'll join the coalition, Baker said. Everything changes. Matthews looked up at the stars visible through the clear dome. The galaxy laughed at humanity once. They called us primitive. They dismissed our potential. And now? Baker asked. Now they fear us, Matthews replied. But fear isn't respect. Our real work is just beginning. In orbit above Earth, the sunburst maintained its silent patrol. Its black hull reflected nothing, absorbing light just as humanity had absorbed the scorn of the galaxy for 50 years. The time for hiding was over. The time for humanity to take its place among the stars had begun. The galaxy laughed, until humanity unveiled the supernova fleet. 3 months after the preliminary agreement, Earth prepared for its formal induction into the Galactic Coalition. The ceremony would take place on the newly constructed orbital diplomatic station. The circular structure gleamed in Earth orbit, large enough to host representatives from all 32 coalition species. Admiral Matthews stood by a wide viewport, watching as alien vessels arrived. The station's design allowed for spectacular views of Earth below and the stars above. Beside him, Ambassador Baker adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform. Nervous? Matthews asked. A bit, Baker admitted. This is a turning point for humanity. Everything changes today. Matthews nodded. For better or worse, we've taken our place on the galactic stage. The station buzzed with activity as delegates arrived. Some were familiar with humans now, while others were seeing Earth representatives for the first time. The massive central chamber had been designed to accommodate all species, with special environmental sections for those with unique requirements. President Howard arrived with her delegation. She wore a simple but elegant blue suit with Earth's new galactic emblem, a stylized representation of the solar system with a subtle supernova burst behind it. The Coalition Supreme Council is ready, she told Matthews and Baker. It's time. They entered the central chamber together. Representatives from 32 species stood in a large circle. In the center was a raised platform where the 7 members of the Coalition Supreme Council waited. High Counselor Vexmar, a tall being with silvery skin that seemed to ripple like water, stepped forward. For 50,000 cycles, the Galactic Coalition has maintained peace and order among the stars. Vexmar's voice carried throughout the chamber without need for amplification. Today we welcome the 33rd species to join our community. President Howard stepped onto the platform. On behalf of Earth and all humans, we are honored to join the Galactic Coalition. We come seeking peaceful cooperation and mutual growth. Vexmar nodded. The path to this moment was unconventional. For 50 of your years, humanity concealed its true technological development. This raised concerns among many council members. Howard smiled diplomatically. We revealed our capabilities when necessary to defend ourselves. We demonstrated restraint when we could have chosen destruction. Yes, Vexmar agreed. The council has reviewed the Thoraxian incident. Your species showed remarkable discipline in a first combat encounter. The formal agreement was displayed on floating screens throughout the chamber. Baker quickly reviewed the terms one final time. Earth would gain full trading rights with all coalition worlds. Human representatives would sit on 12 of the 15 coalition committees. Earth's defense forces would remain independent, but would contribute to joint coalition security operations when requested. Most importantly, Earth would maintain control over its own technology development without oversight, a concession no other species had received upon joining. If there are no objections, Vexmar continued, I ask President Howard to place her hand on the coalition charter, signifying Earth's acceptance of its principles. Howard stepped forward and placed her hand on the ancient document. It glowed, briefly in response. It is done, Vexmar announced. Earth is now a full member of the Galactic Coalition. Applause and various sounds of approval filled the chamber. Many species approached the human delegation with congratulations and offers of private meetings. Species that had previously dismissed humans now sought trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Hours later, as the celebration continued, Matthews and Baker found a quiet moment on one of the observation decks. "They still don't know the full extent of our capabilities," Matthews said quietly. Baker nodded. "And they don't need to, as long as peace prevails." The truth, known only to Earth's highest leadership, was that the supernova fleet represented only a fraction of humanity's true technological advancement. The quantum consciousness integration system that allowed human minds to link directly with their ships. The dimensional phase technology that could potentially open doorways to other realities. The biological enhancements that could extend human life and accelerate healing. All remained hidden. "Do you ever wonder if we're making a mistake?" Baker asked. "Joining them while still keeping secrets?" Matthews watched as a young Lieutenant Ryan Clark confidently explained Earth's historical art to a fascinated group of alien diplomats. The young man moved with ease among beings from across the galaxy. "Every species keeps secrets," Matthews replied. "We're just better at it than most." Commander Wright joined them, carrying a data tablet. "The Coalition Intelligence Committee is already requesting information about our gravity manipulation technology." Baker smiled. "Tell them it's proprietary and covered under the Independence Clause in our membership agreement." "They won't like that," Wright said. "They'll accept it," Baker replied. "They need us more than they're willing to admit. The Thoraxians weren't the only species thinking of leaving the Coalition. Our demonstration of power has actually strengthened Coalition unity." Matthews looked out at the stars. "The next generation of ships is already under construction. Not for conquest," Baker quickly added, "but to ensure we never face subjugation." In the large gathering hall, President Howard raised a glass in toast with representatives from across the galaxy. The Zexorian ambassador Kraz, who had once dismissed humans as primitive, now engaged her in respectful conversation. "Your species has accomplished in decades what took others centuries," the alien admitted. "The Coalition will benefit from human innovation." Howard nodded graciously. "And humanity will benefit from galactic wisdom. Together we can achieve great things." Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Matthews stood alone on the observation deck. Earth rotated slowly below, beautiful and blue. He thought about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point, the fear after first contact, the decision to hide their true potential, the years of secret development, the careful deception, and finally the revelation of strength that had changed everything. A young ensign approached respectfully. "Sir, the Sunburst reports all systems normal. The fleet maintains patrol positions." Matthews nodded. "Thank you, Ensign." As the young officer departed, Matthews reflected on humanity's new place in the galaxy. They had been laughed at, dismissed, and underestimated. That would never happen again. The galaxy had stopped laughing when humanity unveiled the supernova fleet. But that was just the beginning. The true extent of human potential remained to be seen. Matthews smiled slightly as he looked out at the vast ocean of stars. Humanity's journey among them was just beginning.